Namaste, everybody.
Namaste. Welcome to
Dave,
our cool
great,
group.
great to have you. Great to have you on online again, on board again. Really grateful for all of your wisdom, all of your knowledge, all of your generosity in sharing so much of the yoga tradition with us over the years. What's it been like? Half century already, and you're just getting started.
Yeah, that's how it feels. When I first came back from India, I realized I couldn't live in the Western Hemisphere of North America. So I went to live in Guatemala, as you know, and hung out there for years. Actually, I'd visit Canada in the summertime. In Guatemala, I was teaching Ekadasi and breathing techniques, and then we were occasionally doing something psychedelic after the Ekadasi or something. But it was turned on people who were curious about expanding consciousness. People who had also stepped through the psychedelic revolution of the '60s and knew there was a greater purpose in life, etc. And then I went eventually years later went back and started teaching in Canada, and I was totally disillusioned
Yeah,
by teaching people postures and classes, and they didn't want to hear anything about Om or anything beyond. So it kind of downplayed my yoga teaching, and I didn't do that much. I kept on practicing and researching and doing all these other things. But the teaching of it was minimalized, and this is where I'm criticizing Yoga Alliance for keeping it at that level of fitness. And I'm saying, hey, blow this up. It's a different thing. And as we get to talking about mm, the chakras and Kundalini and stuff, you say, well, there's such a whole lot more to this. It's a grand education, actually, the same as a master's degree in university or something. And you need to work at it and study and do the practices. In yoga, it's not an intellectual study. There's that whole side of it, which I was spinning with for years, actually, after India, processing all these chakras and drawing mandalas. And the information was coming to me as I was doing these mandalas, an amazing way of learning. But then there's the whole practical side that makes you feel the experience and you feel the energy of the chakras. And that brings it into a whole different dimension. So now being able to share this kind of thing with a larger group of people who are on the awakening path is just kind of exciting for me. It's okay, finally there's people who want to hear about the real thing. The real thing is amazing, and as you know, I've been following the science and from Einstein through quantum physics to everything, all the latest stuff they're finding out and researching. Wow, this is really the connection of Western science to Samkhya philosophy. And just as a note, when people look at Samkhya philosophy from a Western perspective, you think philosophy. It's a bunch of high ideas and something to think about. But in India, there was no difference between philosophy and science.
yeah,
It was a study of reality. And this is what Samkhya is, a study of reality. It's not about the philosophy about your mind. I mean, Patanjali gets into that considerably in the Yoga Sutras. But Samkhya is talking about this is how the universe is made, and we are part of it. And everything that's in the universe is also in us. And this is how it's laid out through the energy whirlpools of chakras and consciousness, the buddhi, prakriti, all these things. I mean, it's amazing that it's so well detailed and laid out, by a civilization, which is another point. The civilization thinks, hey, we're the greatest civilization that's ever existed. But yet, somehow, thousands of years ago, they knew all of these specific details about energy and frequencies and how molecules and vibration come into being molecules. I mean, this is what they're finding out now in physics. And it was written about back then. It's in the Vedas, it's in the Upanishads. It's like, well, okay, where did this come from? So we're looking back at our perspective on history and this ego thing of we are the greatest and there's been no civilization before us is totally wrong. There have been many. And again, going back to research this online, look at Graham Hancock's work. He's done amazing work at uncovering this stuff. And now you got Greg Braden's also talking about these things, the historical fact and what we need to learn about these ancient cultures. It's mind blowing stuff.
Hmm.
That's my first little spiel. You say something. Touch me off.
I
We're
think
going.
the Golden Globes are on today. That would have just knocked the whole thing out of the water. That was very very impressive. That lines us up perfectly to where we're going. But before we get into it, Dave, I just wanted to just backtrack on a couple of things that you said. That I think it is very important that we recognize that yoga is something for the practitioners, and that it can never really be understood academically. I
Right.
mean, sure, it can help. The academical side can help, and but you can't understand the world of the chakras, the world of Kundalini, the real essence of meditation and mind just by breaking down the words and understanding them, etymologically or in an academic linear logical way. We have to practice these things, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you to you again, because I always credit you as the one that turned me into a practitioner, and I always credit you for whatever capacity I have as a teacher. I credit it because you transformed me into a practitioner, because one day you laughed at me when I said, how do I teach? What's the process? How do I do it? And you just very lovingly laughed and you said, you just practice. And through your practice, you create the magnetic pull, the gravity that will
Yeah.
draw towards you all of the experiences, all of the opportunities, all of the students that you need. It starts and ends with practice. And I really love you for that. And I just think that's such a great message. Practice, practice, practice.
Totally. And that's my life. Like I started this at age 21, and I was blown away by it, fascinated by the thing that drew me into it was higher states of consciousness, which I learned to create at Ananda Ashram in the first couple of years, and then just kept on practicing because what else are you gonna do when you've got the free drugs? So you just
Exactly.
learn to breathe, and every day you tune yourself up, and you come to the state of consciousness where everything's cool, everything's beautiful, and then the side effect is, hey, I'm healthy. I am so healthy that I never need to think or worry about disease. And 50 years later, I say the same thing. Hey, forget about disease. It's just a mistaken identity.
Careful, David. Yoga Alliance, they won't let you say that online. You can't say yoga is about healing.
Yeah, it is the fundamental, the original state of human understanding. And that's what I'm looking at ancient cultures, and it was the foundation of their education for the Mayans, for the Egyptians, for the Hindus, for the Tibetans. All these cultures were looking at ourselves and studying ourselves. And inside, you'll find the same thing. We're actually energy beings, and you go deep enough, and it's so much there that you can only bang your head against the wall so long and go, okay, there's something underlying all of this. And it's the whole phenomena of an energetic world, which is laid out in the chakra world. And this is what we need to understand. And as I practiced, again, I spent 7 years not working because working was prostitution to me. And I just wanted to practice yoga. So I lived in a mud hut in Guatemala, beautiful mud hut, actually, in totally in nature. It was $10 a month, and my girlfriend at the time was paying for it because I didn't have any money. That was no problem. So it was an adventure of learning, and it has continued to this day. And now it's easier to learn now because I can use modern technology. I can use the internet to research things and find more cool information. And I'm still really science oriented. I find sometimes that tradition stands in the way of intuition and of actually learning something in the present. So we need to be a little bit mindful of that.
Yeah.
But as I said, when I went to Guatemala at first, when I came back from India, I had this. My brother said you feel like you have an encyclopedia on top of your head, and you're trying to sort that out, which I was because I had gained so much information, but it hadn't been processed, and I hadn't done enough practice to really integrate it all. So the years in Guatemala provided me with that, and then everything becomes so real when you have this experience of the chakras and the energy fields and how thought creates emotion and how energy creates thought, creates emotion, creates matter, and creates our chemistry, etc. Seeing and experiencing this whole process from the inside out is a mind-blowing experience.
And what's really lovely, Dave, is that now you have sort of come uh, full spiral, and now you're able to offer that same opportunity to practitioners in in Thailand. That's I certainly that was my experience as well. You know, just having this opportunity in this amazing jungle setting, the sound dome, the pyramid shala to just practice. So it's really cool that you've come from you know being the one in the mud hut to the one providing the mud hut. Although they're not really mud
Yeah,
huts these days anymore, are they? They're quite nice little
yeah, they're a little. They
little
don't have
shacks.
aircon yet, but they got all everything else, and they're pretty modernistic, but sitting in the jungle with the view of nature all around you, which is makes it, you know.
Yeah, it's incredible. You guys, if you haven't been to Pyramid Yoga in Thailand, Koh Phangan, you've got to go check it out at some point. It's really got a deep place in my heart. It's very, very amazing. So go check it out when you can.
Yeah, still an amazing place in spite of the fact that suburbia is kind of moving up around us at this point, 20 years later.
Hmm.
But it's still peaceful and quiet, and we're friendly with the neighbors anyway, so it's okay. But yeah, the idea of this place, because I was teaching in Canada at this point in the city of Victoria and back in Nelson and whatnot. And I was meeting more people who were turned on and then did the first TPC down in Mexico. And some of the girls coming to the training got robbed on the whole bus got robbed by banditos and they were in shock when they got there. And, I don't know, Mexico is not really, it's tropical and it's beautiful and outdoors and jungle, but it's not a safe place. So when I came to Thailand, then it's okay. Here's a Buddhist country where people don't take your things. It doesn't feel right to them to steal, and it's cool. It's pleasant. It's peaceful. There's no thievery. So this was a place I thought, and it's Buddhist, so they understand the meditational side of life, and it just made sense to be here, and it felt totally right on. So here I am, still here.
Oh, that's good to know. I'm happy you're still there. Perfect.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to backpedal on a little bit, and this will maybe get us forward into where we're going, which is this great conversation around Kundalini. Um, I'm going to go back to Yoga Alliance again because I feel like they need a good ass kicking, actually. So let's talk about them a little bit more, and just the way that you were talking about them really suppressing the expansion of yoga into the modern world, and I think particularly around this idea of sort of kundalini is very very interesting in that they've sort of either provided us with just the bones and the muscles and just the anatomy, or they're kind of okay with this other version of kundalini, as in kundalini the brand, which from my perspective it doesn't have the necessary preparation and foundational work to be able to hold that energy built into it. So I feel we've either got nothing or we've got a very unsafe um, way of exploring this energy. To be honest with you, the sort of the Kundalini Yoga, the brand with the turbans and the what's the guy's name? The
Yogi Bahan.
Yogi Bhajan. Yeah, I've never really done that. I've done a couple of classes, so I don't really even know if that's really going to activate Kundalini or not. But it seems like these are the only two options that the modern yoga world is providing. It's either nothing. It's either down dog and internally rotate your femurs, or it's like just completely blow it out of the water and have no roots in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I've looked at Kundalini is big here and down in Malaysia, actually, quite popular. But I mean, they use breathing techniques, okay, and you do a lot of what we could call sort of hyperventilating, and you alter your state of consciousness a little bit. That is, that's a far cry from a real Kundalini arousal. It's just changing your brain chemistry a little bit and getting some nice feelings, and they move. So there's benefits to doing it. I think it has maybe a more awakening impact than Yoga Alliance's version of just the alignment of your toes is the most important thing in this class. So the understanding of what Kundalini actually is still a mind blowing concept, and no one has really thought much or thought twice about it. And you have books by Gopi Krishna talking about Kundalini and the dangers of awakening Kundalini. Well, it's just a reality to that. It's kind of true. If you awaken too much energy and you're not ready for it, just looking at yama niyama and the morals and ethics of yoga, and you've got a lot of bad habits, and you double your energy or triple your energy, your habits are going to get twice as strong. You
Exactly.
won't be able to stop your addiction to sex or food or whatever. So you need to contemplate that and make some decisions before you awaken the energy. And that's the beginning of it. When you actually gradually increase the power of that energy up to the force of Kundalini, then it can kill you, of course. So the dangers are a reality, but people don't understand why is there danger and what is this? What is Kundalini anyway? I mean, you're looking at it from the yogic perspective. Well, it's this mystical force that looks like a serpent. Yeah, well, we can say that, but the ancient cultures, they all use a serpent to represent energy because energy moves in waves, and we could see a serpent moves in waves. So the parallel was drawn in a symbolic sense, but the reality of it is it's fundamentally a picture of energy. And then you're talking about Kundalini as a coiled serpent. What exactly is that? Okay, so now we bring in quantum physics, and we're talking about reality is actually made of waves of possibility, and a wave is a two-dimensional picture of a spiral, actually. So electromagnetic spirals are what everything is made of, including our atoms and molecules. Um, and in these atoms and molecules, if you go inside them, it's still just vibrating energy. So you're getting into the essence of what is it exactly. And in the ancient texts, they talk about everything is actually made of sound. Well,
Mm.
sound is the vibration. It's the sound of that vibrating energy. So this is what we're made of. Now, in the modern age, we've got E equals MC squared. I just wrote something up on this, and it's up on the website if anyone wants to go further into it. But E equals MC squared. It's a formula that's over 100 years old now. It's been around. Does anybody understand it?
Mm.
The physicists who developed the nuclear bombs understood what that meant. And they understood that if you take 1 kilogram of uranium and you change the molecules into energy, you'll blow a city right off the map. And they did, killing millions of people. And who cares? It worked. Our great experiment worked. Okay, so now you go back to E equals MC squared and apply it to us.
Mm-hmm.
If you take 1 microgram of your substance, any of your cells, and in yoga we actually go into the sexual aspect, and you're making sperm all the time. Now, what if you unravel the molecules of the sperm and turn it back into energy? 1 microgram of your sperm would turn into enough power to power your house for 25,000 years. This is an actual mathematical calculation of how it works.
So,
So
gentlemen, be mindful of
yeah,
your energy.
don't blow yourselves up. So the process in yoga is to just gradually learn how to do this. And here we're applying breathing techniques and breath retentions and mula bandha, which is awakening the force. And you just need to dissolve a few molecules to have a whole bunch of energy for the day. Just a few molecules, and then you learn to do this by with these techniques, and you can feel it. You're unraveling your own molecules, just a few, a little bunch of them, and you've got power for the day. And then you can, with practice, you can unfold more of these molecules, dissolve them. And in the system that I learned from Swami Gitananda with all of these cool techniques, it's called Laya yoga. Laya means to dissolve, which is exactly what you do with Kundalinis. You're dissolving your material thing, getting the little minuscule parts of it, and back into the energy field. And it powers up the chakras amazingly. And then you start to understand what Patanjali was saying in the last part of the sutras, that if you are doing this, you're going to gain these powers, and how the mind works. And then you, with the practice of these things, you start to realize, wow, I'm really feeling this energy flow, and I'm feeling I can conduct it down into my body and heal this, and I can transmit it over to someone else, and I can transmit some of my thoughts. And you're dealing with our human reality as an electromagnetic phenomena rather than as a physical thing. And you're at that borderline between the physical and the energetic, and you have access to being in the material world, but with an empowerment that allows you to do amazing things. So that's the beginning of the Kundalini stuff. And again, the practices are done carefully, meticulously. It's really important. You mentioned many of your students have done the Ekadasi. They know about the mantra Laya. Mantra Laya is the same thing. It's the mantra that dissolves your mind. Okay, and Laya yoga kriyas are what empower your mind. So you're dissolving yourself into energy, and then you're managing that energy from the mind with sound and mantra, because it's all sound, it's all vibration. And you come to realize and understand that as you're dealing with it and playing with it. And the flow of the energy is, it's pretty exciting and bubbly and sensual and even sexual. So we're getting there into the tantric side, and this whole Kundalini phenomena is in the Tantra yoga section. Let's say it's the experience of the reality of these energies rather than just the withdrawal of your consciousness up into another dimension. It's being here fully empowered and living life in the world with this sense of ability, which can almost go unlimited. I feel like that sometimes.
So, David, you've just answered every single question I've ever had about Kundalini in about 7 minutes. But what I'd love to do is just ask you a handful of questions. I've got 5 here, and maybe we can just so people can sort of walk away with a very, very clear, boom, this is what it is. This is what it is. And I'm just going to fire 5 questions at you, and maybe you can just break them down into bite-sized answers.
Okay, let's try.
Let's try. Here we go. What is Kundalini?
E equals mc squared.
I love it. That's about as potent as you can get it. Good.
Yeah, that is the reality. And what I'm saying about, we're in this age when science has discovered this and they handed it over to technology, which is fueled by military complexes, and we haven't applied it to ourselves. Well, when Einstein wasn't giving it to the military, he was figuring things out and realizing matter and energy are the same thing, and he was studying with Vivekananda.
Wow.
It's okay. and a good friend of Rabindranath Tagore. So he was really much in contact with the Indian continent and the philosophers of India, philosophers who were also scientists. Anyway, that's the reality, and we need to grasp that and understand it because the powers that are ruling the world have taken it all and want to control us with their amazing technological power. So we as humans need to stand in our power and realize, oh, well, this belongs to all of us. This is the phenomena. We are made of matter. The matter is made of energy. When we learn to control this energy and dissolve it back into energy, then we are empowered human beings. That brings us into the ability to do magical things, what are considered magical when you don't understand energy. You realize that to go back 200 years with a flashlight, and my God, everybody would think you're working magic. There's a light that just goes on like a sun. Whoa, he's a wizard. So it's understanding it, and understanding the science behind it is makes it real, and you can make it more accessible, understandable, because your mind has to understand what's happening as well as you're feeling all of these things happen in your body. So they work together, heart and mind, body and mind, the experience, the feeling, and the concepts. So does that explain Kundalini?
It does perfectly.
So
Very, very good.
yeah. So
That's one.
the coiled serpent. Let me add, the coiled serpent is your coil DNA. That's the first thing you unravel. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's it's just and to kind of figure out how did they know back in the day without the electron microscopes and without the high powered instruments from the military industrial complex or whatever. How did they know the DNA was coiled?
I think you can see that on the inside with your inner vision.
Exactly.
And you can go in, and they did this in many different cultures without that technology. And we don't know what technology they had actually, because as I mentioned it some time back, in Egypt, when you go down into in the Valley of the Kings, you go down into Seti I's tomb, and on the carving on the wall depicts what happened in his life, everything he did, and at the end, when he dies, they may have the burial chamber. So in this tunnel going down, they had a picture of him, and they had four sperms representing his four sons, which became later pharaohs. Okay, and there was a tour guide saying, "How did they know what a sperm looked like?
Yeah.
5,000 years ago, like this." And there was a real well, all the cells along the tail of the sperm. The whole thing was wow, it was like a photograph of a sperm. So, um, what were they using to see these things? Was that all inner vision, or did they have some kind of technological advancement that we have no idea about? And that one, I am sure they had all kinds of technology. We just don't have any remnants of it because the world, the earth just takes over things and away we go. I mean, there's a lot of anomalies like that you find in ancient civilizations that are now being uncovered from under the ocean or whatever. It's a reference back to Graham Hancock, who's doing a lot of the uncovering of this. So, next question. You had
Sure.
five.
So, I think you already answered this one in a way when you said that, just changing brain chemistry isn't really a Kundalini arousal or Kundalini experience. But just if you wanted to maybe say a little bit more about what Kundalini isn't. Now we know what it is. Would you like to say anything more on what it isn't, or perhaps some of the misunderstandings around Kundalini?
Yeah, I think people have an experience of some kind of energy. It can be a release of energy from your nervous system, and they go through a shudder. I just had a Kundalini awakening. Give me a break. You had a shiver. Energy. Okay, it is. It's still a release of energy, and that's better than having your energy all pent up or blocked up somewhere. But it's not really the awakening of Kundalini. This is a whole divine phenomena, the awakening of the force that brings you into the magical realms of wizardry and angels and whatnot. Not devils, hopefully. Right?
Cool. Okay. Yes.
And
Uh,
then people have some kind of a energy release that becomes problematic. It creates a pain somewhere. And then Gopi Krishna, in his book on the dangers of Kundalini, mentions many of these things. We're just talking about energy unblockages and releases. This is not a certified arousal of Kundalini. It's just energy is moving. Okay. Kundalini is something quite different. And the preparation for Kundalini is everything we do, and there's a lot of pranayama techniques one after the other that clear the whole nervous system so that energy can flow better until you can start to dissolve some of your molecules and increase the power, which is always done with benevolent intent to help humanity, to help others, to heal, to better society. And now we need to wake it up to recreate a new society because the old one is crumbling. And the power mongers who made the war machines are all trying to hang on to their power. It's not going to work. They're
yeah.
doomed to failure.
I always thought that was really unusual when I'd hear people talking about the dangers of Kundalini and how it can just destroy your life. And I thought, wow, isn't that a weird result of accessing the most benevolent, beautiful, sacred force in the universe? It seems a little bit off. I'm not really understanding the connection. How can accessing the
Mhm.
pure essence of the sacredness of life be so disastrous? And I think what you just said is, hey, a shiver is a shiver, guys. Come on. And the real Kundalini experience is something quite different.
Yeah, so the preparation is really fundamental. And like the ekadasi and whatnot, you do need to clear out your mind before you even begin empowering yourself at all. Before you start grabbing kundalini by the tail, you look at what's in your mind and going into the present stage of the world with everyone worried and in fear of this invisible little microscopic thing called a virus. uh, it's totally ridiculous. But if you have this fear in your mind, then you have the possibility in your mind. Your mind is open to it. And when you start bringing up your energy and it goes to that fear, the fear gets bigger. And if you're understanding quantum physics, um, what they are realizing is uh, you are influencing your own subatomic particles all the time, actually. So when these subatomic particles are going into molecules of DNA to make up the next cell, and you have this vision and fear of the virus, the DNA being manufactured is going to match that of the virus.
Mm.
So there's this communication of the virus globally through Wi-Fi, through internet, entering people's minds. This is how it's spreading. It has nothing to do with the air. It has nothing to do with your mouth. It's coming through the minds. And Buddha said it's all in your mind. Yoga says mind over matter. Jesus said if you believe, we need to grasp this. Hey, understand it. And then come to E equals MC squared. Well, that's this too. This is empowerment that belongs to you and me, to the people. Everybody has access to this. We just need to train ourselves and educate ourselves in a way that we are practicing and becoming comfortable with this energetic aspect of ourselves and realize it's in our control. It's in the control of the mind. This is where yoga says mind over matter. What are your expectations? So if you have a bunch of negative expectations, you begin awakening your energy in one way or another. It's going to go into the bad ideas. It's going to go into the fear possibilities. and activate those things. And you'll end up looking at your worst fears because you had a focus on them.
Hmm.
You just need to have the fear and you think about it, you are empowering that fear. So all of a sudden you have 10 times as much power because you just practiced a whole bunch of yoga. Well, you might just launch that fear. So the clearing, the process of cleaning this out and then understanding how we are actually the co-creators of our life and we are always creating our own chemistry. So what are we going to create? How are we going to do it? And then from the chemistry, we go into the more nuclear aspect of empowerment, one step at a time.
Awesome. So, Dave, let's talk about those. Just as basic as possible. Let's talk about how you would progress someone step by step up to uh, being able to safely work in a well prepared way with this Kundalini energy. What do you think they will need to work through in terms of their practice and their life on, to get to this point where it becomes something that is auspicious for them to work with?
I think what you are teaching people with the breath and then ekadasi, these are all some of the preparations. And when you're doing that, you're applying the swadhyaya where you are observing what are your thoughts, what are your emotional reactions to these thoughts. So the studying of how you are doing, how you are progressing, and then having someone to advise you on if you feel you're progressing in the wrong direction or your fears are getting worse or you're developing aches and pains, well, then you do this posture, you do a few days of fasting, you do some kind of a detox, you do pancha sahita to look deeper into your mind. And when you feel that everything is pretty clear, you don't have demons coming up anymore,
Mhm.
then you can start to work with more advanced breathing techniques that would be applying retentions and mula bandha and things with a feeling of what's happening on the inside. And you're observing. And if something feels like it's going wrong, your mind starts thinking too many negative things. Okay, stop there and analyze where are these thoughts coming from. Now we have a technology that's throwing out so many negative thoughts and possibilities and telling us focus on how many people are dying rather than the 99% who have hardly any symptoms. This is totally insane. It's totally backwards. And the people who are doing this have some idea of how it works. I mean, Western medicine has a little understanding of psychosomatic medicine, of the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, which is negative thinking creating disease. So there's some kind of intent in here that's not particularly good or healthy. So people need to wake up, and the first thing we can do is take our health empowerment back and realize we're responsible for our health. And part of that responsibility begins, what do you believe in? Check out your belief system. And this understanding of the whole Samkhya philosophical science, you can look at the structure of consciousness coming into buddhi, coming into prakriti, coming into energy and into matter, and contemplate that, study it, learn to feel these energies and shift your reality. Your belief system shifts once you have experience in actually feeling these things. Then you can understand them. You'll never understand the chakras without feeling them from the inside out. You can talk about them all you want. Oh, there's so many petals in here. Da, da, da. That's besides the point. You need to have the experiences. And you gradually go into those experiences. You look at all the layers of the onion from your emotional content that has accumulated over a lifetime, and why do you need to hang on to that? What did you learn from all your experiences? So it's a process of the breathing techniques. Pranayama yoga is it's how you clear and clean the mind and the nervous system. And as you're doing that, you're looking at the whole belief system that's there and rearranging it and formatting your new belief system based on the energetic reality, and you're looking at science documentaries and videos to back up what you're learning. You can look into modern medicine, Bruce Lipton and Deepak Chopra and some of these people for medical backups. And there's a bunch of other doctors who've spoken out on the fact that the world is full of viruses. You got more viruses in your body than you have cells. They're part of us. They're part of our metabolism, and they're all cooperating with your self image. But as soon as you begin doubting and fearing the viruses, they can turn against you. You need to have an integrated sense of self and maintain that. So, all of this, as you're practicing yoga, things come up, and you look at all these things that come up. If they're obstacles, you figure out how to move them out of the way. If they're bad thoughts, how to replace them with positive possibilities. And you're feeling your way through your body with the hatha part and the asanas, and noticing if there's any glitches in there, and regulating that.
Hmm.
So, this is all part of the preparation and the practice. And then I mean, even working with the bandhas and the mula bandha, which is kind of an awakening force, going from just holding it to working with it as a pulsation, which brings it into the vibration field, and that is more awakening. But you feel your way through it, and if anything doesn't feel right, stop, and you can talk to us about it or something, and see how things are going for you. In some ways, it's unknown territory for a lot of people. So is quantum physics for a lot of people. And it's been around for 150 years almost, and people are still not getting it. It's the revolution of the age. It's the same thing as when someone announced that the world wasn't flat, it was round. No one believed them for the first 100 years. No, 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 I can see that it's flat, you know. What our senses can see is not the energy world, and the reality we're made of is the energy world.
Cool. All right. So, Dave, I got one more question. Another thing that I took away from you, and it served, I think, me and the students that I have pretty well, is understanding that yoga is a science, and we can talk about it in that way because there are repeatable experiments that provide dependable results. So, in that spirit, how can we determine whether we are effectively arousing or activating Kundalini? Are we going to see that in practice benchmarks, or are we going to see it more in the way that our life unfolds off the mat? How do we measure our awakening process?
One of them is just by the pure energy, which is an energy that activates and motivates.
Yep.
And then in your mind, it becomes creative. Okay,
Yes.
you're dealing with a force that is going in to create sperm and egg for the next generation. It's powerful, creative stuff at the energetic level. Again, we can dissolve it, but as a force in us, just the hormonal consequence of this awakening becomes a creativity, that you want to create things, that you have inspiration,
Yes.
and they're positive inspirations. Okay, so this is the difference. If you've taken out the worries and the fears and the negativities, you're left with a creative force that's creative of creating another human being, or you are recreating yourself in a better way, or you're using your creativity to improve the situation in the world around you.
I
So
love that. I think that's so great. I think that's very, very measurable as well. Do we feel more creatively inspired? And do we have more energy to bring those creative visions into manifestation?
yeah, that's it. If that's in place, then you know you're going in the right way, and it's good to proceed. And then you use that creative force to actually do something. Don't just keep it in your mind with a bunch of good ideas, but apply some of those ideas at the practical level of the material world. And many of them will have a practical aspect that is helpful, beneficial, and beautiful. You just artistically creative, doing mandalas or sculpting something or building a house or a temple or a sound dome or whatever. You know? It's a manifestation of creativity. And this is what Kundalini is, it's the creative power of the universe. Energy in its full force is always unfolding and vibrating and molding and developing new life forms. So we're placing ourselves in harmony with that and allowing that power to flow through us. And you always bear in mind that it's not your power. You know, the energy is coming at the electromagnetic level. This energy is coming in from the universe and coming into your DNA and into your molecular structure. It's not yours. It's universal energy. When you treat it as such, and hey, it's for everybody. And what can I do to help uplift the human race? And at this particular time, the human race is kind of falling into a dark hole because of the influences. So we need to shine the light on and bring up our creative power and find creative ways to reach people and teach people and wake people up. And then build a new system. You know Tommy? He was around there.
Yes.
Tommy is one of these inspired individuals who is putting together a whole new educational system based on all this kind of stuff. And he sees, as we see, that it's the educational system that needs to change.
Yes.
And everybody being taught the reality of the world we live in, from the energetics to how to be healthy and how to breathe, basics that were never talked about in school. Okay, we need to understand this. We need to revamp the whole educational system and change the world. And we have to start by reprogramming our own minds because we were badly programmed in some areas, particularly the medical field and then the whole financial field of competition instead of cooperation. I can get more than you and I can be a businessman and make profit off everybody. Well, they're not really good ideas.
Yeah.
So we need to change the system.
Amazing. And that starts with practice,
Yeah,
right?
practice makes it all real.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the other part of our session today, um, Dave, is that you were going to share with us something which is very profound, very revered by the yoga tradition, and really speaks to the conceptual side of the conversation that we are having today. You want to tell us a little bit about what the practical aspect of today is?
Well, I'm going to explain in a little more detail the science of how energy works to come into matter and back out of matter in Kundalini idea, and show some pictures from science of electromagnetic waves and things, and compare that to different phenomena from ancient traditions, and so that we can have an understanding that they're all saying the same thing, from the ancient traditions and Kundalini to modern science and nuclear warfare. The
Yeah,
whole idea of um, human empowerment so that we can take the power that is within us. Remember what I said about the microgram of sperm is enough to power my house with aircon and fridges and everything for 25,000 years.
it's
So
insane.
if I'm 100 and if I'm 70 kilos of energy converted in a little bit into power, it's immensely empowering. So we all have this ability to do this, and we start off gradually doing it. And we need to understand that it is a possibility. This is modern science. It's not the outdated science that medicine is still teaching with atoms and molecules of chemicals to try and influence our being. We manufacture our own atoms and molecules. We are in charge of our brain chemistry. And we begin by this responsibility of practicing these things, regulating our own chemistry in the body, the hormones, in the mind, all the neuropeptides, and from there we clean things out and begin developing more flow. We have more creative energy to proceed into the future of humanity in a very positive way that is living in harmony with nature and not paving it all to make parking lots for all our machinery. We've made too many mistakes. We need to back off. So I can just run through a bunch of slides and pictures and explain them as we go along.
Cool. That'd be great.
Then we'll end with a primary practice of a Laya Yoga Kriya, which is a grounding safety practice before you begin too much of the activating stuff.
That'd be amazing. All right, let's do it. Perfect.
Okay, let's see how I set this up. Haven't done this so far. So what are we doing? Screen, launch me, whiteboard, phone pad. Advanced. Okay. Yeah, PowerPoint. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. We'll go into PowerPoint and then share. Okay, chakra presentations. I have to look at where I am here.
Where did you put?
Jackie, if you have any ideas here, any suggestions?
Remember?
Hang on a sec. Where's my libraries?
Documents.
PowerPoint. It should be Laya. Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
Hey, nice.
Got it. So there's we begin here where we have us sitting with all the chakras in place. And this is the reality which the ancient traditions have been saying, and in the modern yoga, the concept of the chakras is kind of disregarded. Sometimes people mention it. I've heard some brilliant and famous hatha yoga teachers in America, very famous teachers, saying, well, chakras, even if there is such a thing, it's not that important because they're so focused on the material. So we need to look at this chakra world, and 1 of 18. Now here's a better view of the chakras, and you see the whole energy field around the human. This is a greater expansion of the energetic world. And this is a reality that is there in modern science. This can now be photographed and measured, and it is. There's a place you can go online, the Heart Math Institute, which has been doing a lot of research on this and using the latest technology in this very positive way of looking into humans rather than designing a rocket to go land on Mars or something. So this is how it is. You can see can you see the mouse going up, the pointer?
No.
You can't. Okay, I can see it here, but I can't point out to things yet. Somebody can teach me how to do that. Anyway, up the spine, you see those same chakras as in the last picture, but now you have this force of energy coming all the way up through, and it creates this um, auric magnetic field around us. And this is the part where now we can measure this, and now we can tell how big it is. And you can see it's much wider than the human in this picture. It goes like 2 meters on each side of us. And if you bring in, you're working with these Laya Yoga Kriyas, you're bringing in more of this energy and growing that bigger. And that will influence people around you. Energetically, when you go near people, they feel this wave of something positive because someone positive have just walked by. So this is another view of the chakras. Now let's compare this to magnetic fields, the scientific reality of the Earth with the North and South Pole, and the magnetic field has the same shape. This is part of a structure of the universe. It goes into our molecules, it's in us, it's in the planet, it's in the solar system, it's in the galaxy. It's a universal structure of reality, and we're in the middle of this reality. We're immersed in it. So when we were doing techniques, if you remember doing like polarization and things in the trainings, and probably you do it there too. This is aligning our spine with the Earth's north-south pole, and that creates a greater conductivity so that the energy can flow. And this is one of the preparations for Kundalini.
Mm.
You're clearing out your nervous system, aligning it so that there's no glitches in it, and then the energy flows through nice and smooth. So I'm going to run, this is part of the whole presentation in the course on the Kriyas and such. So this is a picture from Heart Math Institute, the electromagnetic field of the heart. Now look at the similarities. This is what they're measuring. They can detect it and they can see how far out it goes. The human is in the middle, chakras up the spine, and when you have a flow of energy coming up your spine, this field gets bigger and stronger. This is us. This is how we look at the electromagnetic level, not at the physiological level. And our senses, remember, are stuck in the Maya. Our eyes cannot directly see this. Maybe if you take enough peyote or something, you can see this. But for most people, we don't have access to that, and there are better ways to get there anyway. So this is the reality of what we're like as energetic beings, and this is what we're playing with the Kundalini and the Laya yoga. So here's another little photo, and you can see the flow of energy coming in from above and the glow around the body.
Mm-hmm.
So we're swimming in this ocean of electromagnetic energy. It's always coming in from the sun, from the stars, from everywhere in the universe, and we learn to access it in the Laya yoga techniques. Here's another view. We've got kind of the earth in the center and this huge donut shape. These are all reflections of the same thing. And this is the scientific reality that has just been coming to light. Like in the last 50 years, the technology has been able to measure these electromagnetic fields around planets and around us. The latest thing is around us because they were always focused on other planets and the Earth's magnetic field, which is always changing and shifting. And the North and South poles are both shifting and tilting at a pretty fast rate these days. So this is part of our reality, and we connect to that. So here's another one of the North Pole, South Pole, same thing. And now we have here another picture because as we get into some of these kriyas, there's you've heard of Ida and Pingala on one side and the other here. We have ideally or in theory the concept of Ida being a force of positive solar power that's coming up on the right side, and Ida being a negative force that's going down on the left side. This is a little bit mistaken and misinterpreting the ancient text, which often happens. Even in the world of chakras, you see the chakras in a picture looking this way, but in 3D they're this way and revolving around. So the north-south axis of your spine is the center, and the chakras revolve this way. It's not up and down on one side and the other. So here you have spinning one way. If you're standing on the South Pole, it looks like the Earth is spinning clockwise. If you're standing on the North Pole, it's spinning counterclockwise. So what's the reality? It's all relative. And if you're spinning it one way, you're creating an energy field that goes in one direction, and the other way, it goes the other direction. When we apply this to the Laya Kriyas, we're bringing energy in and down from the universe in a counterclockwise spiral, and we're going back up clockwise. And this is another thing that's common in all the ancient traditions. So understanding the connection here between us, our electromagnetic field, and that of the planet. So here's another example. This is from a temple in Malaysia. It's a Chinese temple. And you can see the serpent here. In China, the serpent has the head of a dragon, but it's the body of a serpent. And he's going, if you look and count, 1, 2, 3, 3.5 coils to the top, where the dragon is. So this is Kundalini is a 3.5 coiled serpent. So the Chinese have the same phenomena. And if you look, which way is it going up? If you go clockwise around the pole, you're going upwards. Now here's a spiral staircase. If you go up, you're going clockwise. If you go counterclockwise, you're coming back down. It's the same spiral. It's not like Ida and Pingala are completely different nerve systems. It can be the same nerves, the same nadis that are moving energy up and down depending on the spiral. And this is what you work with the chakras. You can bring energy into the chakras and out through the petals by going counterclockwise. You pull it back in and spiral everything upwards going clockwise. This is a fundamental difference between clockwise and anti-clockwise. It's part of the reality of the universe. So here we're back in India with this is a temple up in Rishikesh, just up in the back, a little temple out in the back of the town. And you see here we have a reference to the serpents are here. It's a 3.5 coiled serpent. And if you look here, 3.5 coils around the big lingam in the middle. The lingam is a phallic symbol. It means a penis. And below that is the yoni. That's the vagina. So in Hinduism, this relationship of the sexual components, masculine and feminine, come together and spark, and the spark creates life. Okay, this is the reality of how they saw life is a manifestation of sexual energy. And sexual energy is a manifestation of creativity of life. So taking that spiral and unwinding it and allowing it to come straight up your spine is part of the process. So understanding that, and you're dealing with an energy that is sensual and sexual, and it feels that way. So here we come back out into the universe, and you see the spiraling of the whole galaxy. This is, again, this vortex, the spiral. It's like a huge chakra out there in the universe. And this particular spiral, it takes 1 day for the Earth to spin around once, and 1 year for the Earth to spin around the sun in the middle. And a galaxy like this takes 25 million years just to go in one circle. So everything is slower the bigger you get, but we're dealing with the same thing. The smaller it gets, the faster the spin, right down to your atoms and molecules that are spinning at immensely high rates, vibration and spin. So this is all the energy we're playing with, dealing with, and we learn to access. This is more of an electromagnetic wave. You can see that it's wavering quite a bit. It's emitting photons of light along the way. And then in Kundalini yoga, you're absorbing these waves. They're coming down from the universe, zillions of them, infinite amounts. You can't count them all in your lifetime, all coming here. And we learn to feel them, absorb them, and draw them into the body. So you can contemplate some of these things and come to a kind of a reality about them. Here you can see the energy is coming in. It's the same picture we started with, but now we got these little arrows coming down. These are the electromagnetic waves, and the being here is concentrated on feeling this energy coming in, kind of raining right through your body, like raindrops hitting, but going right through the body. And we absorb that, kind of filling ourselves up with it. And then we create this vortex around on the exhalation. This is a fundamental aspect of the whole Laya Kriyas. And there's several different techniques that are step by step taking it to a higher level, generating an energy flow that ends up looking like this again, where you've got this vortex of energy coming up the middle and going around, and you can feel it. You learn to feel these things without the technology. This is part of the beauty of yoga. And then looking at the greater reality of all of these electromagnetic waves coming in, they snap into the atoms, and then into the molecules, and then into the chain of your DNA. We are made of this electromagnetic energy coming into our DNA. And then Kundalini has to do with focusing on this and pulling our DNA apart back into the energy world, which gives us the energy here in this world to be empowered. And the mantra Laya, that is the sister of this, is working with the sound formulas that keep all of this in a very balanced flow that doesn't go out of balance into one chakra or another. It keeps everything integrated into this one spiral and back into this whole electromagnetic field. So one is a safety for the other. One is empowering and the other is the safety aspect. Now this is the last picture, and you can see there's a pyramid at the bottom, and the pyramid has been used in many cultures as a symbol of Kundalini also. The four triangles are the four petals of the first chakra, which open up into the four directions. And when you fold them up, they're all pointing in one direction, and that's up. So as a practice, we take in the breath and bring it out into one of these petals, and then on the exhalation, we pull it back in. The next breath, we go into the next direction and exhale, pull it back in. And then same to the back and to the left side. So we're going front, left, back, and right. Every breath going into one of these petals and pulling it back in. This is not creating a vortex or a spin, it's actually grounding us into the four petals of the first chakra. So I said this is the grounding and the safety starting point of the Laya Kriyas. So that's it. And this is something we close our eyes, we can visualize this, and then we try and feel this, and we'll take several breaths and just do this as a practice for now. Okay, how do I stop sharing this? Okay, stop share. Okay, we're back here. So got that with an understanding of everything is energy, and the more time you spend focusing on this and these techniques, the more real this all becomes. But if you're really busy in the outer world doing all these things and being a consumer, you might never get to feel these things. So the practice is really an important part. It makes it real. This was all maybe theoretical for you, but this is my reality. Okay? So let's take 2 minutes and just see if we can feel this energy flowing down to the front, down and to the right, down to the back and down. And then every exhalation, we're pulling it in to the base of the spine with a little bit of application of Mula Bandha. Okay? 2 minutes. Okay, that was 2 minutes already. So as a starting point, you would just do 2 or 3 minutes of this, and then increase day by day and see how you feel afterwards and see how the rest of your day is going. They are strong techniques, and the better your concentration, the less you're distracted by mental turmoil or fantasies, the more effective it is. Okay, leave you guys with that. So we're gonna have this whole series of developing this into more sophisticated techniques as we go along. We're thinking of doing like an 8-week program. You can look into it online, chakrayoga.com.
Wait, explain about the 8 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, some of your students already know the mantra Laya and stuff, so it's important to know those and balance out the power techniques with the mantras. So every week we'll work with one, and you practice them in between. Don't just wait for the next week. Practice them until you feel comfortable with them, and you can actually feel this energy flowing. You're shifting realities from the material world that we see with the senses to the inner world that we can perceive with our inner senses. And this is an important aspect of yoga, to make this shift and discover the inner reality. The practice will make that real. Do you want to say something else,
Who
Joanna?
is this? We will start next week, next Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to start this next Wednesday. So you're all welcome to join. And again, you empower yourself, you're going to be influencing other people to do the same. It's automatically going to start waking up other people, because this auric energy field that you saw in the photos is really there. When you come by people, something happens, the wave of power goes through them and they feel something, they have a little inspiration. So what you're doing is not just for yourself, it's for humanity. So we can all live in a better, happier world. And we need to disempower the old system. You know, we are all paying the taxes that the governments are using to make more weapons and create these nuclear arms and stuff. It's ridiculous. It's not where we want our energy and our money to go. We need to kind of redirect our power and energy in a better way towards human fulfillment, human enjoyment, and human enlightenment, not towards a technological artificial intelligence that knows everything and controls everything. So let's step back into our power.
Cool. So, Dave, just to reiterate, you're starting an 8-week process next Wednesday. We can find all of the information on the Pyramid Yoga or Chakra Yoga website.
It's Chakra Yoga website.
Chakra Yoga. And what is the name of the course, just so people can find it? Has it got a name on there?
Online courses in Chakra Yoga. It's one of the drop down menus. Learn online courses, and there you'll see Laya Kundalini.
Absolutely amazing. I will be in there for sure. I cannot wait. I also wanted to mention that I've asked David very sweetly and kindly, with my most polite voice ever, if he would be a part of our 300-hour program starting in May, which is a 6-month mentorship program. And David has given me a little wink and a nod, indicating that there's high potential that he might be on that course, helping us out with some of the Kundalini stuff as well.
Totally into it. I'm really into this, the new concept of cooperation, not competition. And we've never been in competition. We've always cooperated. And this is part of the yoga community. And again, I point back to the Yoga Union website has been fired up. It's there. I think it's chakrayogaunion.com, where we get together, discuss the ideas of how we can help cooperate and help humanity come to a better place of health and happiness. And Never mind just the postures. This is beyond the asanas into the reality of mind over matter yoga. We all need to jump into this and become warriors along this path of transformation.
Amazing.
All
Well,
right.
we're with you.
Looking forward to the teaching in this course as well. It should be fun and inspiring, and let's get the word out to as many people as possible. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for sharing all of these great teachings with us and just being such a example of the true essence of yoga. We're short on role models these days, and you are really just a rock solid, very inspiring, pretty hilarious at times, which is always a bonus, but just the real deal. So thanks for being the real deal and being such a great ambassador for the tradition. I appreciate it, and I think we all appreciate it as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. Like I said, it's enjoyable to now find people to share this with, and everybody can enjoy the teachings and get to this nicer state of consciousness. So there's a question that popped up on the screen about where do you find the Yoga Union. I'll send you the link, chakrayogaunion.com. It will take you there, and then you can register. I'm putting in people's names, um, all people who've studied with me and know what real yoga is are part of it. It's like an alternative to Yoga Alliance, but more real with yoga. We can share stories, information, and contact points for everywhere around the world because we got chakra yoga teachers globally and all over the place at this point. So cooperation and harmony.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you send me the link, and I'll put it out on all of our platforms as well, and we'll join the movement. Absolutely.
Cool. Let's do it. Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much, David, and thank you so
Yeah.
much, everyone.
My pleasure.
Awesome again. Thank you, brother.